There were a couple of RPG teams harassing us. So myself and two other guys were walking through the grass, going towards what we felt was one of the teams. So we could, as we got closer, we could hear them talking. When we got within maybe 6 or 7 feet, we could see them through the grass. There were 3 guys. There was a guy with a launcher on his shoulder, a guy loading the launcher, and a guy who was security with an AK. And all were kind of facing towards the perimeter, so we were a little bit behind them. But I could see the guy just swinging on me with that thing on full auto. So I compromised, and as I was yelling Dung Lai, I shot him in the shoulder. And the other 2 guys immediately gave up.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served war zone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. Today we have a round 2 combat story with Kent Hillhouse, where we recorded the episode with a screen available to look and talk through some more of his combat experiences with maps and photos from his time in service. Kent is a retired Major General who spent a year as a platoon leader and tank commander in Vietnam from August of 67 to 68. We wanted to do a round 2 with Kent after I spent some time with him following our first interview, looking over some of the photos from his year in Nam and bringing some of those stories to life. In this episode, we dive into the Tet Offensive, which Kent was a part of as his platoon was sitting close to the Cambodian border when it kicked off in late January of 68. We cover Kent's months fighting in the Iron Triangle, an area notorious for being controlled by the enemy in dense vegetation and triple canopy jungles. We also hear a story of a fellow platoon leader who would go on to become a member of the storied SOG outfit following their initial rotation in Nam. If you didn't catch round 1 with Kent, he grew up in California and Georgia. He attended San Jose State University while part of ROTC. He ended up in tanks as an armor officer, thinking he'd see little combat given how challenging the terrain in Vietnam was for tanks. Little did he know he'd be in a fight for his life, emerging on the other side with a Purple Heart and 2 Silver Stars. He would go on to become a 2-star general and continues to support the veteran community, leading our local Veterans Memorial and Support Foundation of Los Gatos. If you're just listening to this episode and not watching on YouTube, you may want to take a peek at the video version on YouTube to see some of the images we talked through to get a better feel of what it was really like. With that, please enjoy this second round discussion with Kent Hillhouse. Hey, thanks for coming back, sir. So glad to have you back on for round 2. And the reason for that is there are a few things we didn't touch on from your last time in service. And you showed me quite a few pictures that I thought would be really helpful to kind of bring to life what happened, and made me think there are a few more topics we could cover. So thank you for coming back.
Hey, glad to be here.
Okay, so I was hoping we could start out with the Tet Offensive, because you did mention that you were there from obviously August of 67 to August of 68. Tet takes place in January, February of 68.
So we were, the start of Tet, just before Tet started, we've been doing screening missions along the Cambodian border in here, and ended up at Loc Ninh over Christmas of 67. We're actually pulling a stand. We were operating along the border for the month of January, and then at Loc Ninh, we were pulling a stand down just as Tet was starting. So I was out doing cloverleaf missions, security missions for the perimeter. There were, I think, two platoons were out doing that, tank platoons. And we got the word on, well, first of all, the AM radio was on. The guys were listening to Radio Saigon, rock and roll station. Good morning, Vietnam. Just that guy woke you up in the morning. So at any rate, all of a sudden on the AM, they came on and said, all personnel report to your units. Saigon's under heavy attack. And we were sitting there, what the hell is going on? And then the FM lights up, and it was my boss telling me, 1-6, this is 6, return to the night defensive position. We're going to be moving out shortly. And that was the start of Tet for me. We were calling artillery just before we got that phone call. We were calling artillery on a wood line. I took that picture just as the impact took place, and dropped down in the cupola just as the picture is taken. And you can see the report of the 155s as they hit the ground. So just as those impacted, I ducked back down. They're about maybe 300 to 400 yards out, maybe a little bit closer. But just as I dropped back down, a couple of metal fragments bounced off the side of the tank. Not many, but a couple. So it was, snapped the picture and immediately dropped down into the cupola, and then bam, 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 away.
And this was you calling your own regimental artillery?
Yeah, we had squadron artillery.
Yeah.
We had M109 mobile 155s. So anyway, we've reported back to the perimeter, 95th NDP, night defensive position. They're pouring out the warm meal that we were supposed to have, the one we didn't get on Christmas. So it had been a month and we were waiting for that warm meal to come, and it came, but in the mermite cans, and they were dumping it on the ground as we came in. And then they were getting rid of anything that we couldn't take with us. And you'll see some 55-gallon drums of oil drums, because we were doing a stand-down mission. And that was going on. I was getting a quick order from my company commander, and we were going to hit the road, hit Route 13, and head down to the Bien Hoa, Long Bien, Saigon complex. And that was a dusty march. We found out that the quarter horse was in front of us. That's the 25th Division. It's a divisional cavalry unit. And then behind them was the 1st of the 4th. The three-quarter horse was lead. The quarter horse out of the 1st Division was second. And then our 1st squadron was next in line, and then we were 2nd squadron. 3rd squadron fell in behind us at some point. So we saw a lot of dead bodies on the road, but weren't getting shot at. It was all being taken care of by the guys in front of us. We had a couple sniper rounds coming in, but nothing really significant. So
and you're moving south from Lac Ninh
down to the Saigon, Bien Hoa, Long Bien complex. This is Bien Hoa, Long Bien. There was an airfield at Bien Hoa, a major airfield, which is where most people came into Vietnam and left Vietnam on the charter flights. And the three-quarter horse went on that runway and ran into a regimental-sized North Vietnamese unit crossing the runway. And their F troop was a casualty within a couple of minutes. That's 250 guys. When I say casualty, probably I wasn't there, but I think maybe it was 17 people were KIA and maybe 60 or 70 were wounded. And they killed thousands of, it was 6,000 guys coming across the runway, and they just gunned them down. The 2nd and 3rd troops got on the runway. Their armor got out there, and it was probably over in 45 minutes. But that was the start of Tet for those guys. We went down into Long Bien. It was an 18-hour road march, so we got there at 4:30 in the morning. And there was a POW compound there where the Army of the Republic of Vietnam had captured prisoners, North Vietnamese and Viet Cong prisoners held there. And the North Vietnamese were going after that thing big time because they wanted to free those people. And when I got onto the road to head, there was an advisor came out and said that we were to report down to the POW compound. I said, "Where is that?" And he said, "See those tracer rounds?" And I said, "I do." So we followed the tracer rounds in. They radioed ahead. They let us into the compound. We turned our vehicles around and we started put them in line, five tanks, and we started shooting at muzzle flashers as it was starting to get light. So that was over fairly quickly. By the time before the sun was up, but it was getting light, it was basically done. And the picture you'll see of the bodies lined up, that's not the number of people that were killed there, but that picture, the Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese Army loved to stack everybody into a line of bodies. They'd take off anything they had on them that was valuable. For example, their wallets, any money, if they had any piastra or any of our military payment certificates, they take that stuff. So, death by this time, we were starting to get pretty familiar with Tet during the Tet Offensive. But there were times in the jungle when we'd be going along, and all of a sudden a lead element would see a North Vietnamese soldier sitting down, leaning against a tree, who had been dead maybe 2 or 3 weeks, where the ants had stripped him. He still had his uniform on, but it stripped his flesh off. So it'd be a skeleton with an AK-47 in his lap. So you see stuff like that.
And then just out of curiosity, so for people who are just listening and can't see the video, we've got a map up that kind of shows Cambodia. It's got Vietnam, it's got the border, and this is specifically the Tet Offensive. And it's showing kind of the enemy incursion from Cambodia into Vietnam, and then some blue arrows representing presumably U.S. forces pushing back. You are up in Loc Ninh where this appears to be going on, and you're heading down south towards Saigon. How did the North Vietnamese kind of mass in these areas?
Well, first of all, where those red arrows are, that's where they came through. They were infiltrating for the whole month of January. Okay. And then they were grouping in different locations that were, in their minds, I'm sure, viewed as being secure areas. And maybe along the river, was one area that was suggested that they came from. But by the time we got there, they were already inside Saigon and Long Binh. Our principal mission during Tet was to secure the Long Binh post, which was a major logistics center at 100,000 people who never were issued weapons. And they were secured by MPs, and the MPs were happy to see us. When I went on post on day 3, or maybe it was day 4, after Tet was basically over, to go to the PX to pick up some stuff, MPs just waved us through. And an M48 tank, which weighs combat loaded probably 56 or 57 tons, would tear up Highway 17 all day. I mean, it's just on basically it's a rock and screen road. It's when that melts down, it looks like a paved road, but you just tear it up with the tracks. But they didn't seem to care. And we'd cut across little open areas inside the post where they had clotheslines and stuff, because we weren't used to being on roads anyway. We'd just go where we wanted to go. Company commander gave me a list, because we hadn't been near a PX for 4 or 5 months, and roll down to the PX. As soon as we get there, at the end of the road, then we see an above-ground pool. And we're thinking, what sky do these guys live under? And all of a sudden, we are surrounded by, I'm going to say, maybe 150 guys. The RIMPs, we call them, rear echelon mother effers. Okay. And they were taking pictures of us. They didn't have weapons or anything. They had never seen a tank before. So left one guy on the vehicle to secure it. 3 of us go into the PX. We get to the front door, and there's an MP standing there with an M14 rifle. He does a rifle salute, brings the rifle up, and what's going on here? I just had my flak jacket on, open, and my floppy cap on with a bar. It had a lieutenant's bar on it, so that was good, because we didn't usually have rank in the field. And then it says, clear all weapons before entering the PX. Well, to us, that means just take the round out of the chamber. So you drop the magazine a little bit, jack the round out, and put it back in your holster. And he picks up the 45 round and hands it to me. Here, sir. So we go inside, and there's probably 8 lines with maybe 30 guys stacked up in each line. And we go around with the baskets, and we fill them up with all the stuff, mostly 3.2 beer, U.S., not Korean beer, but we go for the good stuff, American beer.
Are the lines filled with people who are like clean clothes?
Oh yeah, they're locals.
You probably smell pretty bad.
I'm sure we did. We were kind of cut up, and when you're on the road, your face is black from the dust signature that's kicked off by the vehicle in front of you. So we filled these baskets up, and we got in line. The 30 guys that were in front of us disappeared, and there was left only one guy. They didn't want to get too close to us, so the guy in front of us was buying a 6-pack of beer and some chips or something, and so the guy in the counter says, "I need to see your beer ration card." So the guy pulls it out and he clicks it, signs off on it, and the guy leaves. So here we are with cases of wine. I said, we don't have beer ration cards. And the guy said, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
All right.
So at any rate, they kind of viewed us as animals, I think.
Yeah.
Tet was a turkey shoot. I think back to World War II, where the Navy called the Mariani's turkey shoot, where they shot down. They basically broke the air arm back of the Japanese forces, and here that's what it felt like. And of course, we heard later that we lost the Tet Offensive. We didn't hear that because we were out in the field. But when I got home, my dad had saved all the newspaper articles, and that's when I found out we lost the Tet Offensive, which we didn't lose. But at any rate, so that's basically.
What was morale like in the unit after that?
It was great.
Yeah.
I think we only had 2 guys wounded in the platoon during the Tet Offensive, and I don't know how many people we killed. And I don't even want to think about it because these guys were all young kids. They look like young kids, just down off the trail.
So some of those pictures that we just showed of the bodies, I mean, they do look young.
Young.
Yeah. And then I was hoping we could talk, since we've got you here and we've got some pictures, if we could look at a couple of the tank images to talk through some of the things that you had pointed out previously.
Well, that tank there, we called that tank had the name was the African Queen on that tank. It was named before I got it because it always brought you home.
Okay.
It was a good vehicle. That's a 90 millimeter gun. The bore evacuator's up forward on it. It's got the Xeon light, and we called that
Is that this?
Yeah, that's a canvas cover. And that drew the RPGs. The RPGs, when they fire at you, they try to get center of mass. And then the top-mounted 50s up on the very top.
What's this background here? You're sitting up on the top of the tank, it looks like.
So to the bottom left, you see 50 caliber brass, empty brass here. Yep. That's my Thompson with a stock off. That was a great weapon for sweeping the stuff off here. If you guys are climbing on your vehicle, that's my 45. That's an inner tube. Taken from an inner tube of tire. That's my map case under there. But before I got my map case, we'd have the maps under there. And when I'd fire the main gun, after 3 or 4 rounds going, I'd shred the maps, the concussion, which is why I would, when I was using the vein sight, which you can't see in this picture, I'd aim at the target, drop down inside, and hit the override and fire the gun. So that was.
I do want to get a picture of the inside.
That's looking down, and that's the reason when you see a lot of radio wires there is because we use the A and VRC 47 radio, which has an aux receiver on it, and it's a great radio. But when they go out bad on you, then you have a PRC 25. We had 2. I think we're using 3 PRC 25s in this picture, and then there's and this broadcast in the open so that you didn't have to have a headset on all the time. My CVC is right here. My radio helmet's like a pilot's helmet. And that had better ballistics on it than our steel pots did in terms of stopping a round coming in because they were the early Kevlars. So if I dropped down and wanted to use the gunner sight, I'd put my head up against, that's the sight right there. The gunner sits below me and he's got his own sights and he's got a gunner scope, which he took out and put an extra machine gun in there. So we had 2. The machine guns would blow up on you after you fire them too much. So the coax machine gun is on the left side, the gunner, where the loader is. And then we put another M73 on the right side and took the gunner's telescope out because he's not going to be aiming at tanks 3,000 meters away. So, and by the way, the gunner's position, he's the most accomplished of the crew members, with the exception of the tank commander. In my case, the gunner, when he graduated from high school in 1962, same time I graduated from high school, went in the Army. And by the time I was there in Vietnam, I was the second year out of college, so we were the same age, but he'd been in the Army for 6 years. He could take a tank apart and put it back together again. But he would. If we lost a crew member, the gunner gets moved to another tank, maybe takes over the tank commander's position. If you have a 3-man crew, you got to have a loader, and you got to have a driver, and you have to have a tank commander. So even though that was a critical position, in a normal war, not so much in Vietnam. That's the gunner's position right there. That's perfect. Below me. And then that's our computer where you can determine super elevation. It automatically cranks the range in for you and the type of round you're using. In our case, we're using mostly canister, so the computer didn't do us any good because, you're just blowing trees down in front of you, and it's an anti-personnel system. So in that picture, that's my override. You see the red trigger.
Oh, it's a handle. It's a
handle, cycle. And you can move it left or right or up and down. You control the gun tube with that, and then you fire with that. So, and I could reach that. I'm standing in the cupola, so I could actually reach down after I aim the weapon. I would never drop down and use my extra scope. I'd aim from up top because it's all. Everything has to be done quickly. And if in a combat situation they're trying to overrun your vehicle or whatever they're trying to do, you don't have time to get precise. Yeah. And with the burst radius on the canister rounds, you don't have to worry about being precise. So, and you can see all the C rations behind the bustle rack, extra oil cans, and this is standoff here. Those are track blocks to prevent RPGs from getting you. Mm-hmm. And the M48 was a pretty good vehicle in terms of it would, besides the V-shaped hull and not killing people when you hit a mine. We actually, based on the turret design, we'd have most of the RPGs actually hit and didn't penetrate. This bounced off or kept going. They skip off. And sometimes they get lucky and penetrate. And if they hit below, no big deal. So it was a good vehicle as an anti-personnel type system. And in that picture there, every night we go into a new location and we're knocking down trees to set up a night defensive position.
All right, let's talk the iron triangle. And this comes up for you after Tet. What is the iron triangle, and when do you end up going into it? Just a quick word from our sponsor, Mad Rabbit, and we'll get right back to this combat story. As we head into beach season, I'm starting to see more amazing skin art and look on enviously at the military ink representing units and brothers in arms. I don't have any tattoos yet, but find myself wanting one more and more on these types of days. This podcast is sponsored by Mad Rabbit, which is committed to reinventing tattoo aftercare. What I really love about the company and why I'm happy to promote it is that it was founded with passion, much like Combat Story, by two friends, but in this case with a passion for ink. It creates simple, effective, and natural products to improve and preserve tattoos delivered to your door. Their hero product is Tattoo Balm that sells once every 90 seconds and revitalizes and replenishes tattoo ink with clean and natural ingredients for both new and old tattoos. 94% of folks using Mad Rabbit have seen their tattoos maintain their depth. 88% say their ink's contrast looks more vibrant. Now is the time to try out Mad Rabbit. They've preserved over 3 million tattoos, and they've got an exclusive offer just for Combat Story listeners. If you go to madrabbit.com/combatstory25 and use promo code combatstory25, you'll receive 25% off. It's 25% off when you head to madrabbit.com/combatstory25 and use our promo code combatstory25. And now, back to this combat story.
So that was an area that the North Vietnamese basically controlled. That's how we looked at it. Those are Arvins, or maybe they're part of a militia group friendly to the South Vietnamese government, but probably long gone if a shot's fired. But in that area, there's a lot of elephant grass, which can be 6-7 feet high, and it cuts you up. And we were in a perimeter, a night defensive position, and there were a couple of RPG teams harassing us, and so myself and two other guys were walking through the grass, going towards what we felt was one of the teams. But we could hear, as we got closer, we could hear them talking. But when we got within maybe 6 or 7 feet, we could see them through the grass. If you looked, if you could look through, you can see them. There were 3 guys. There was a guy with a launcher on his shoulder, a guy loading the launcher, and a guy who was security with an AK, and all were kind of facing towards the perimeter. So we were a little bit behind him. And the guy with the AK, I'm looking at the AK, and AK, the safety goes to full auto, then semi-auto. M16 is just the opposite, safe, semi-full. So I'm looking at his weapon, and he's on full auto because they have a big handle on the side of an AK. You can see exactly where So, we always tried to take prisoners whenever we could, and the North Vietnamese did not cooperate in that regard very well. Just like us, we wouldn't cooperate either. But so we were supposed to, dung lai, which means stop or I'll shoot, but I could see the guy just swinging on me with that thing on full auto. So I compromised, and as I was yelling dung lai, I shot him in the shoulder, and the other two guys immediately gave up. His shoulder looked pretty. M16 will rip a shoulder off, but he got medevaced along. Well, they took him out with the other two prisoners, and so I'm assuming he got some kind of medical attention.
Were you trying to keep him alive?
No, I just wanted to put him down. I wasn't trying to, my wife or other people, when they talk about, we're watching a TV show, why don't they shoot him in the leg? You shoot center of mass. I mean, we didn't care. That's why the .45 pistol was so nice. You didn't care if you killed the guy. You just want to put him down. You want to separate him from his weapon. That was our goal.
I mean, you're fighting these people day in and day out. You have the jump on them. They're clearly harassing you and would probably take you out happily. But you didn't shoot to kill in that case.
I could have done a headshot on him. I was close enough.
Yeah.
But didn't. But it was an easy. I knew I wasn't going to miss or anything. So I mean, he was close. The kind of terrain you have there, it's what we call as rainforest. Now the weather and the area is conducive to having jungle, and if you get near water, say 100 yards or 150 yards from a river on either side, there will be jungle, and that's really tough to. And there's some pictures we'll come across some pictures where we have a guy doing a Tarzan off the back deck of the tank, but.
And just for people who are listening, I mean, the terrain here is dense tree forest, but with fairly narrow trees that are, 40 feet tall. You mentioned the radio station. What is that event?
Well, they had the North Vietnamese had areas that they tried to monitor our radios. And also they had the ability to Morse code type things, getting back to whoever their headquarters was. And so they had C8s, Beechcraft, twin engine Beechcraft that they could find these things, and they would kind of figure out where they were based on their transmissions.
We could triangulate them.
Right.
Okay.
And they located one, and they wanted us to go up and take it out, which we did.
Okay.
Yeah, this gives you a feel for the type of terrain we're in, and you can see there's two guys here. There's a guy here. You
can just barely make this guy out.
There's a guy in here. So there's four guys in that picture. So it's terrain is tough to see through. And if you go to the next slide, okay, what was happening in this picture? Our F troop commander, we were op contra F troop when this took place. We were held back. They told us they wanted to see, they thought the ACAVs could get through faster to the radio station because they could hear us come and stuff. So the ACAVs were coming in first, and then we were behind them. Usually they're behind us. So at some point, the radio noise picked up, and we could hear all kinds of gunfire in front of us. And that's a real sickening feeling, knowing that your guys are in contact, and they needed the tanks up there. They weren't calling for us. I mean, they got the command to come up, but it was taking us a little while to cut through. We asked the ACAVs to move off their already beaten down path, which they did, and we get up there, and there's a couple of tracks that were already down, and we pulled up we had three tanks, and we pulled up online facing the radio station, which was a series of bunkers. And radio antenna and some other things. And we started firing canister rounds and HE rounds in at them. And the vehicle to my left got hit with an RPG and detonated. Damnedest thing! It detonated a white phosphorus, a Welly Pete round inside the cupola. So Charette, my gunner, jumps off my vehicle and he runs over to help get guys out. But they had already, we didn't realize it, but immediately went to the bottom hatch in the driver's compartment and got out and went underneath the tank away from and they crawled under the tank to more of a safe position. And so that tank was down.
They didn't get the white phosphorus on them?
They did. Yeah, they were burned. The loader was not burned. Okay. But the two guys in the loader and the drivers wasn't burned, but the TC and the loader were. And so they were laying on the ground somewhere behind there. And we had other wounded. And so we started, for about 15 minutes, we were just laying down the fire. I think we went through all of our stand-ups and our ready rack ammunition. And so we knew it was time to leave because there's no way we could go into the honeycombs at that point.
What range were you at for this?
Initially, probably 10, 15 meters. But then we were pushing them back with a fire. And they tried to get on the vehicle to my right, but he was hosing them down. Sometimes we could use our coaxes and hose each other off. But I signaled for the guy to my right, my 1-4 vehicle, pull off, which he did. He started pulling out. And then I told the driver, I'm going to gradually move the turret, so you need to have your head down. It was important for the tank commander always. When you get a new driver, the first thing you do is you put them up in the cupola and let them see what it's like to run into a tree. So then a good driver has a good tank commander because he's going to be telling him what he's doing with the turret. So at any rate, we're firing. I still have some canister rounds left, and as he's moving the tank, neutral steering, which means you don't move forward or backwards, but you're moving the vehicle, rotating the vehicle. And I'm moving the turret to cover us as we're shooting. And as we're shooting, I hear the word that there's about 6 wounded guys that need to be pulled out of here. And the other tank had already gone by. He picked up 2 or 3 of them and then had gone by. And so I fired my last canister round as we were moving back, and we actually pulled the track. We dropped one of our tracks because we were going over these down trees, and my 2 guys got off the vehicle with a tanker bar and rolled the track back on, telling the driver to move now, and he pushed the track. Now it ruins the track, but it gets you a hasty way to get out.
You're in contact at this time? Are you under fire?
We're under fire. And so I'm still up top shooting, trying to cover those guys. And they didn't get hit or anything, but that was a scary situation for me because we're picking up wounded guys now. So now we're basically not going to use the main gun because it's going to blow them off the back deck, the concussion well. So now I'm using only the 50 caliber as we're pulling away. And then we threw a track again, the same one, and pulled it back on. Finally, we got out, and we go down to the bottom of the hill, and they were calling an airstrike to finish that tank off because they didn't want
the enemy to take it.
Yeah, we went up later to make sure everything's cool, but we returned to a perimeter, and then we got hit that night really hard. This time we had a strong perimeter and some good fields of fire. So 2 122 millimeter rockets came to the center of the perimeter, and it's hard to even create what the concussion is from that size of a rocket, or what it can do, the damage it can do. But it missed the vehicles. But I mean, it just rocks you. And then they started throwing, I guess, probably they're fairly large mortars. They weren't 60 millimeter. They weren't they're probably 10. I don't know what they were, but they're big mortars. And then they had a ground attack, and they actually got into the perimeter on the F troop side. We only had 3 tanks on the perimeter at that point. One tank had lost his cherry juice. So he's manually moving the turret.
What is that, hydraulics?
The hydraulic fluid, sorry. Yeah. So it was one of those things where we had to innovate and make things happen. And it worked out okay. And a couple of the ACAFs burned their barrels down on the 50 calibers.
Shooting just so much.
I never burn a barrel down. To change a barrel on a 50 caliber takes time, and you have to use asbestos gloves. It's not like an M60, which has a quick change barrel on it. So I always fired in burst, because I didn't want to have to change the barrel. And you could be effective with burst fire. So that was okay.
But it was so bad, they felt like they just had to really burn through the barrel to survive.
We were firing we had 20 rounds in the back of the turret there, so we got those out. So we put them in the stand-up positions, put a couple on the ready racks. The honeycombs, it's just you get them out as fast as you can.
When you're in the triangle, do you just assume you're getting hit on a daily or nightly basis?
We just expected it. Yeah. Well, some days were just snipers, and I got hit. Excuse me, a 12.7 came right by my ear. I had my CVC on it and actually knocked my head to the side. And that gives you a lot of respect for what a 50 caliber, a 12.7 is what they call theirs. But that tells you that they're out there to mean. When you start using the 50, that means we're going to go after them too, because we do go after them when snipers, you don't know necessarily where they are, but they're just guys with AKs taking pot shots at you. It's not like getting shot with a real sniper who knows what he's doing. The lieutenants, there was a saying in Vietnam going around amongst the lieutenants that you can't manage somebody up a hill to die. You have to lead them up. And I always think about that. I mean, to get your people to respect you, you can't be some guy who hides inside the tank or doesn't have his head out of the cupola or is on the ground with them or doing the same thing they're doing. So I think about that sometimes when I was in business, commercial real estate, because we dealt with presidents of companies and VP of operations and those kind of guys. And they're the leaders of the company. I'm thinking to myself, they don't know what leadership is here. They're managers. Maybe they're good managers, maybe they're not. But in the Army, you manage people a lot, but in combat, there's management there, but it's mostly leadership. And they have to, when you tell them to do something, if you're going to take a hill, they got to go take that hill. And they know they may die. But you have to be there next to them. So it's, I always like that. Saying.
Love it. Yeah, it's a great one. I hadn't heard it until I saw the interview with you and Joe Galloway, actually. Yeah. And I'm saddened that I hadn't heard it before that, because I think it's a great one. I wonder if we talk about Lou Raymond at this point.
Yeah, Lou, he's a good guy. He and I didn't know each other all that well in Vietnam. I told him I always thought of him as a kiss ass, the first company commander. But the second company commander I got along real well with, and he didn't necessarily, not his fault, but the company commander has to have a go-to guy, right?
And it was you and not Lou on that one?
Yeah. But that was a result of being in that 6th ambush together. Lou wasn't there. He'd been op-conned out to the 101st Airborne that day. During my award ceremony, when General Palmer was down, General Palmer was commander of all Vietnam troops. He was between Abrams and Westmoreland. So there's a 2-month period where he commanded all troops. He was a cavalry guy, 2nd Field Forces. And so he came down for our award ceremony. And after the ceremony was over, I saw Lou over there talking to him, and he's taking note. The aide's taking notes, and the general's acting like he's listening. I guess. I know how that works. Being a general officer, when guys are hitting you with stuff. But at any rate, the story picks up when I meet Lou again, 2002. Well, I was still at the Pentagon, I think.
You hadn't really seen him since then. That's what you're saying.
Had not seen him, had not talked to him.
So quickly, let's just describe him for people. So if you're not if you don't see the video, we've got this guy on screen, but could you just describe what he was like when you knew him in combat before we jump forward?
Well, he's still kind of the same way. He's very loud voice, and he doesn't mind using his voice.
He looks like a big guy.
And he's a big guy, and and his guys like him. He's good. He's obviously a good platoon commander. And Sergeant Nicholson, who was his platoon leader, was an old-time World War II Korean War veteran, aggressive guy. And so when we got back into base camp, my platoon was down to almost nothing. So they made I took over Lou's platoon, 3rd platoon. Didn't know anybody there. I mean, I knew I used to talk to him occasionally, I got his platoon sergeant Nicholson, and he becomes the XO of the unit.
Lou kind of moves up to be the XO?
Yeah, he's next in line. When you talk to Palmer, he said, I want to go to airborne and ranger school, and then I want to be a LRP. And like I said, take a note. So he gets home, and his wife, who later got a divorce, but they weren't getting along very well, and they showed up he was transportation corps officer. He was a direct commission out of the ROTC, and he had just arrived at the transportation school down at Maryland.
Yeah,
whatever that school is down there. He gets orders to go to airborne and ranger school. so I guess that ticked off his wife. He goes to ranger school and airborne school, gets his tab, his wings, comes back, and almost immediately gets orders for an R&R center in Thailand. Now that really, I'm sure, he didn't tell me this, but I'm sure that ticked his wife off again, because an R&R center translates to boom boom,
Yeah. Not that your wife wants you going there.
Yeah. So at any rate, he gets over to Thailand. This is him talking, and he shows up, and he's unhappy because he didn't want to go to an R&R center. He wanted to be a LRP or do something constructive.
And a LRP, just for people listening, long range reconnaissance patrol, kind of like small teams out on their own, way out on their own.
There'll be divisional base usually, and they'll be with in front of a division that's going to be moving in a certain direction. So at any rate, then the general officer, the 1-star's aide, comes down. He says, "Boss wants you at the handball court tomorrow morning, or racquetball court at 07." So he goes down there, and it turns out that it's Bessie, who's a 1-star at that time, and he's later a 4-star chief of staff of the Army. But he says, "You're going to be a part of SOG Laos." Well, they had 2 SOG groups: one SOG Vietnam, one SOG Laos. So he's there, and their headquarters is. It's a fake address for them. So they're operating out of this R&R center, which isn't really a big R&R center. It's more of a logistics center. So he goes into the LRP thing. I think he was 18 months there, but he got into situations where he had danger close situations, and they tried to use 250-pound bombs, not the 500-pound bombs. When he was over there, he said when North Vietnamese brought the dogs in, that's when they knew it was done. But you
can't hide from the dogs.
That's
basically.
Right. So he was in Vietnam. He walked out with a bronze star with an oak leaf cluster and a V device, and he was in the action there, and a couple of big shootouts. So he goes into SOG, and when he leaves SOG, he has 3 Purple Hearts. He has 2 Silver Stars and a Distinguished Service Cross.
Goodness gracious.
And that's why he was the aide to the general.
Yeah.
There's other stories I could tell, but I don't want to embarrass the poor guy.
So he wasn't too much of a kiss up then in the end. Yeah. Well, geez, thank you so much for the time again. So this is a blast. It's great to have the photos. So if people are listening, they haven't been watching, take a look at the video version of this. If you have time, you can kind of see some really great pictures back from Vietnam and some of the maps. Thanks so much, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed this second round combat story with the general. Kent's got some great stories in there, and just sitting with him a couple weeks ago after we did round 1 and looking at some of the photos that he had up in his office. And it was really cool. He's got his guidon up on the wall framed. He's got his Silver Stars there, and he's very humble and would never talk about those without me trying to ask him. But just seeing some of those photos made me want to bring those to y'all as well. So we tried something a little bit different. I hope it was enjoyable for you. And I had a few comments here that I just wanted to share. We had a few from some of our subscribers, like Carl Fisher, Echo Red 4 again, maybe Mick Ove Jalen, something to that effect, and Doc Rowe. A lot of these, very good interview, great information and content, well done. Great to hear about the 11th Armored Cav in Vietnam. Doc Rowe, of course. Yes, more tankers. What an amazing story. Life in a tin can in sweltering Vietnam had to be brutal. Completely agree. And then we had JS414 said, awesome video. I've never heard such detail about tanks in Vietnam. Fantastic. Thank you. And I would agree with you. That's part of the reason we wanted to do this, is it's so uncommon, but was something that was going on, and people, earned silver stars for it. And I think in this episode, we really dug into like this dismounted effort and fighting at that radio station, and guys who go on to be in SOG coming out of the tanks. Pretty amazing. And then we also had an Apple 5-star review from JT Cattle, I think Katl. Says, interesting that you recently put up this interview. I've been hoping for a while that you do something with tankers or the Cav. I was young when Desert Storm kicked off, but I love hearing these stories and learning the history. Another amazing episode and interview. Always looking forward to the next interview. Thanks, Ryan. That's really great to hear. Every now and then, definitely need to pick me up as we're trying to crank these out and make sure that people get to hear about these amazing stories before it's too late. Thanks so much for listening. You can check out our newsletter with some of the things we have going on at combatstory.com/newsletter, and you can definitely support us at patreon.com/combatstory. Thanks so much, y'all, wherever you are in the world, whether it's your week or weekend. Hope the rest of your day is great. Stay safe.